That's all. We got one goddamn hit.
You can't say goddamn on the air.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
'Cause I cannot change, I will not evolve. I am an artifact, I'm the last of my kind. You will encounter me in the pages of a textbook. Too scared to move ahead, so stubborn I was left behind. My tiny brain buried in my thick skull. I'm the last of my kind.
Welcome back, everybody, to Don't Worry Nobody's Listening podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jason Benicki-Critchlow, joined by
Todd.
As always, Todd, very just not delivering the goods. Can't help it. One of these days, he's going to unleash this whole concept of personality he just doesn't have, and we're going to see it. I mean, he's like older than I am, and it hasn't happened yet, but you know, such is life. One of these days, he'll show a little personality somewhere.
What are you saying? One of these days, I'm going to snap.
That could happen too. I mean, if you ever see a crazed accountant involved in a mass shooting in South Bend, just know it was him. It absolutely was him. But as always, please subscribe, rate, and review to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, Google Podcasts. I guess they have a thing. Satchel, Castbox, Stitcher. I feel like I'm missing one. Oh, Spotify. I always forget Spotify. And then I forget the YouTube page as well. You can follow me on YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter at JASONBANICKI. Always love to carry the conversation forward. Any shout-outs you want to give, Todd? Tell people where to find you?
No.
Of course not. Why would you want people to find you? Really, guys, accepting applications for a new co-host anytime. Like I said, so it's been a couple weeks. Like I said, I wasn't sure exactly if this would be every week, every other week. I think I'm going to make that one of Todd's jobs now, is just to make sure he tracks me down once a week to make sure I do this every week. Otherwise, I come up with excuses like I'm busy from work.
Wait a minute. I tried last week. It might have been 9 o'clock at night, but I did say what the hell happened.
Oh, you said what happened. You didn't say, hey, let me come over and we'll do this real quick. That's all you have to say. Hey, I'm coming over. We're going to knock a podcast out real quick. You know I'd have been like, all right, whatever. I wouldn't have cared. I said I was going to try and do one by myself, and I was just like, yeah, you know.
So I got to know, because you did say you were going to cuss out Taco Bell employees. What happened?
Don't even get me started. We're going to start with this. So last Sunday, I get off work at 8 o'clock. I'm hungry, because usually if I work that shift, I don't eat a breakfast. I just eat kind of a light lunch, come home, have dinner. So I go to Taco Bell. I use their app. You know, I think this foolproofs it for them. You know, I just want a couple tacos, chicken quesadilla, extra chicken, no creamy jalapeno.
Okay.
Put it in the app. Prints on the receipt that they get. I'm asking you not to put something on. Not put extra on. Not something on. First bite, I taste that garbage creamy jalapeno. And of course, the corporate office to call and complain is closed. I tweet at them about their garbage. Never responds. It's again, how hard is it to not do something?
Well, you got to be able to read first.
I agree. That's probably part of my problem is figuring that they might be able to read. Literacy is clearly not a requirement to work at Taco Bell. But Jesus Christ. Again, I didn't ask for something extra. I didn't ask for anything special that didn't belong on a quesadilla. As a matter of fact, there are only 3 things that belong on a quesadilla, ever. And one of those is not creamy jalapeno sauce. It is quesadilla, or tortilla shell, your choice of meat, and cheese. That's it. It's a 3-ingredient meal. You don't need to fuck this up by adding shit that's mayonnaise-based into it. I'm sorry. I may be a pasty-faced peckerwood, but mayonnaise tastes like hot garbage to me. I don't know why you white people like it. I never understand your obsession with it. If you wanted to taste shit taste so bad, feel free to come over and suck my dick, and I'll give you something creamy and white that tastes like garbage too.
Are you feeling okay?
I always feel okay. What are you talking about?
You said suck my dick, but you didn't tell them from the backside.
Oh, no. This time I want them to get the full, because they want some creamy and white. I want to make sure they get the finish.
This show will never be brought to you by mail.
No. Sorry, Miracle Whip will not be a sponsor anytime soon. No, neither will macaroni or potato salad or anything else. Sorry.
Vegetables, you're out too.
Yeah, I won't go that far. I do love my vegetables. I'm not you. I will destroy green beans, corn, carrots, celery, broccoli, cauliflower.
I will eat some of those.
Some of those. So, what you say is never going to be brought by vegetables. I mean, we're both, well, okay, I'm fat, but I do love vegetables and fruit and anything else. Just don't eat garbage foods. Oh, garbage. Mayonnaise. You white people and your mayonnaise. Jesus Christ. I don't even know.
And the reason I brought this up, because we're going to go down a very long hill today of things that's going to piss him off. So I wanted to start off right.
Let's start off with me angry. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I thought we were going to start out with something that would make you happy, but since I have to start off angry, I'm going right back at you. And we're going to start with Notre Dame Michigan game. And if you don't know, one of us is a Notre Dame fan. This guy. And one of us is a fan of a garbage football
Go
team
Blue.
Who happened to lose again to a good team again. But that's all right. Him and his khaki-wearing football coach can go enjoy each other's company while they talk about, well, Michigan was great once. We split a national championship 20-some years ago. That was the best we did.
Should have played that. Should have played that game. I hate splitting that thing.
You would have never won, so you should be happy with winning.
Bowl.
Oh, yeah. The team that had won 2 championships just back-to-back 2 years prior. Yeah, that was third undefeated season by Nebraska in 4 years. Yeah, you were going to beat them. Get out of here. Your best player was a cornerback, and guess what Nebraska didn't do? Throw the footballs. You weren't going to stop them.
He was also a kick and punt return and a wide receiver.
Yeah, again, which is great, except they're going to hold the football for 12 minutes per possession while they ran the triple option. No, sorry. That split was the best you ever got, because otherwise you'd be going back to, the 50s for your last championship before that? 60s?
I ain't that old.
I was say, you're old, but you ain't that old. But, yeah, so anyways, Michigan looked terrible. And then I'm gonna take the hot take route for every Notre Dame fan. Oh, wait. Except for the coach who was praising our garbage quarterback last night. He missed a screen pass again last night. We're talking about the basics of quarterbacking.
Wait, he didn't miss it. The wide receiver dove for the ball and lost 2 yards by catching it, so he technically got a reception for that.
Yeah, you're right. It helped push his completion percentage to 12 for 23, so just barely over 50% last night. Woohoo! Congratulations. However, I'm calling that missing. That's not a loss because they diagnosed the play. That's a loss because the quarterback can't throw the ball accurately 5 yards to a guy who's completely wide open and under no pressure or duress. And then just chucking the ball up wildly to an interception that went basically directly to somebody, but somebody on the other team. That was about the best throw he made all night. It was just to the wrong person.
Well, your quarterback likes to chuck and pray.
And the funny thing is, I don't want to see him not play any, but I want to see Ian Book play more. There were clearly times in the end of the third quarter and the fourth quarter when it got to 3rd and long, there's just no chance. Like the missed slant route. I told you very early in the game when Michigan hit a slant route for a first down, I said, for a first down. So there's 0 chance that Notre Dame can pull it off because it's not accurate enough. And what happens? He throws the ball 3 yards in front of the guy running the slant route, and he can't make the catch because it's too offline.
And the sad thing is, I did not buy it when he told me that. And then when I seen the route, and I seen it coming, and I seen the first down happening, and I'm sitting there like, God. And I look at it and I go, oh, he was right.
Unfortunately, I've watched enough of it. I get he might be the best practice passer we've ever seen, but he does not translate to a game.
He's the anti-Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow couldn't practice for the Dam, but came to the game and couldn't be stopped.
No, he couldn't throw in a game either.
Well, I understand it, but he at least won things. He played better than he did in practice.
I'm not sure about that. I'm sure he's still good at running the football in practice. I'm sure there are guys who traditionally outperform their practice skill set. However, I don't think Tim Tebow was the shining example of that. So why he's playing minor league baseball for the Mets and not even sucking up roster space in the NFL.
I mean, he lost his NFL job when he became the last man to block for the punter.
Yeah, again, he'd probably still be in the NFL if he'd be willing to be a tight end. I don't know. Like, oh, I want to be a quarterback or nothing, but I'll go play minor league baseball. Like, really? You'd forego millions of dollars to be playing in the NFL?
I'm pretty sure he's still getting a nice check from ESPN, too.
Well, I'm sure he's getting ESPN and Tim Tebow. Jesus Christ. There's one of those great myths conservatives love to hang their hats on. Oh, everybody hated when Tim Tebow kneeled. Oh, it was so terrible. No, ESPN and all of you fuckers ate that shit up. You tried to make Tim Tebow an NFL quarterback despite his inferior skill set because he was doing things you liked. That man was hot garbage and should have never played as much as he did.
I might be taking this down a rat hole here, but I'm going to ask this question because I've been thinking of this question for a while and I can't get an answer. When did kneeling become bad? Kneeling always showed respect. I'm Catholic. You kneel.
It's always been respect, but you know when it became disrespectful? When a black guy did it and white Americans lost their shit. But again, because it has nothing to do with kneeling. It has nothing to do with the anthem. It has nothing to do with police brutality. It has everything to do with so many white Americans' hatred of black people actually expressing themselves in this country like they're equals. That's the problem. Here is a intellectually superior to most of these people who hate him, black guy who's saying, no, this shit's wrong, and he's doing it in a polite and respectful manner, and they're losing their shit because he's actually got the nerve to say, we're not treated the same, which, by the way, is 100% true.
Yes, correct.
Because we all saw the video of the white guy calling the police at the airport, you're treating me like a black guy, you're treating me like a... No, they're not.
You're still standing, you were able to make a call.
You were able to say they were treating you like a black guy. Like, if you were a black guy, you'd have been on the ground eating fists. Like, sorry. There are just certain truths we hold in this country. You know, again, facts are facts and opinions are opinions. You're allowed to have an opinion. But there are certain things that are facts, and you don't get to have your own set of facts. Black people are treated differently by the police. It's okay. Let's admit it, and let's work on fixing it.
It's not okay. What you mean is it's okay to admit that.
Correct. I'm sorry. It's not okay that it happens. But it's okay to say it does happen. It's okay to say that these people, many of these police officers are not doing it purposely. There's this thing called implicit bias, where you don't even realize what you're doing or who you're biased against. It's that simple thing when you're at a stoplight and you see a young black kid walk by and you lock your car door that you wouldn't do if it was a white kid. You don't do it intentionally. You don't do it because you hate black people. There's just between the awful media coverage and the way society is, you just get in your head that young black men are scary, so you lock your door.
I lock the door no matter what with anybody because if it's 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm driving down the road, I got to stop at a stop sign, and somebody's standing in that corner, I don't trust anybody standing in that corner at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Well, again, it was the same thing years ago when somebody tried to make a big deal when Mark Cuban said, you know, if you seen a young black kid with tattoos walking down the street, he'd cross the street. And everybody's like, well, see, he said... Then somebody found the rest of the interview where he said, yeah, and if I saw a young white kid with tattoos walking out, me and my family would cross the street too. Pointing out that it's less to do about the race and more about what the person looks like in the situation. But not to get too far off track there, it was just the point. It's got nothing to do with kneeling. It's got nothing to do with the protests. It has everything to do with a young black man peacefully, politely, respectfully, and eloquently stating a position that challenges their own view of their superiority.
And it's a young black man. And his parents white?
Yeah,
his adopted parents?
I was going to say, I think so. I know his mom's white. I don't know about his dad. You see his mom more. But
I don't think I've ever seen the dad, but yeah.
I was going to say. So, but that's beside the point. I mean, again, his parents could be white. He could be raised white. When he goes out...
Well, no, the reason I asked that because I thought the mother came out and disowned him for doing this.
No.
His
mom's been a big supporter of him.
Okay.
He's crying.
It's been a while. It's been a while. I swear somebody's made that point before that she's not talking to him because of this.
You got to talk into the microphone. Me and you sitting across from each other talking is great. The people listening need to actually hear you. You know, I know I haven't got you as nice of a mic stand as I've got. You know, but again, you can come off the cash. I'll get you the boom.
Okay.
And then you come off the rest of the cash, I'll get you a good mic too. But that's not a bad mic. It's just not as good of a mic. It's
right.
A little more airy and echoey and everything else. We got it here because of Tim Tebow, because of Brandon Wimbush. I'm trying to backtrack where we were.
We were talking Michigan Notre Dame football game, and we got down the rat hole.
Way off the track. See, this is what happens when you get me mad to start the day. This is what happens when you get me mad to start the podcast. It's not a good tack to take, because now we have to go all the way back and talk, though, about how great Notre Dame's defense looked till they went into the victory prevention defense that somehow barely hung on for the win because they made just enough plays at the end to hang on. But I mean, I think that's always been one of the consistents among the teams that make at least the January 1 bowls, the Big Six, and let alone the college playoff, which is way too early to talk about. So I won't even get into that ridiculousness. Like Coach Kelly, this has big playoff implications. Like, wait, no, it doesn't. Like, yeah, it's a good win against a marquee program that's ranked to start the season, which most teams don't do. It was one of, 3 games yesterday between both teams were ranked? Maybe only 2?
I know there's one tonight, but I couldn't come up with a third one.
Well, there was Auburn and Washington.
I didn't know Washington was ranked.
Yeah. Okay. They're both in the top 10.
Okay.
That was a whole other thing about why that probably should have been the college game day game. But, I mean, it's not Notre Dame, Michigan. Let's just be honest. Auburn's the second biggest school in their state, and Washington's way on the West Coast. And there is some West Coast bias. Let's just, when you play games that start at 10 p.m., not everybody's watching on the East Coast.
Right.
You're going for 7 p.m. starts your time. Well, unfortunately, you lose a lot of East Coast viewers, and your programs don't get as much attention. It's just the reality of it. But that defense looked really good. Like I told you going into the game, I was really expecting Notre Dame to have a really good secondary and a really good line. I was unsure about the linebacking core, and they even played great. Now, again, chicken and egg? Is it that the defense was that good, or is it that through the 4 years of the Harbaugh era, that offense has just been
horrible,
awful? So, we'll learn more as we go through. Maybe not next week when Notre Dame plays Ball State. You might learn something, but I don't think you're going to learn a lot. I think it'll be 2 weeks when you play Vanderbilt that's a better team. I don't know how great they are. Hey, they were a bowl team last year, too. So
Jay Cutler might have a year of eligibility left.
No. Jay Cutler is fully committed to second season of the Jay Cutler Show. And I don't care what else they call that. That's the Jay Cutler Show at this point.
Yes, it is.
He's owned that. He's earned it. Even if he's like, do I have to do a second season? Like, yes, Jay, this is what you were meant to be to America. This was your true calling. You had to be an average NFL quarterback for a decade. So then we could be like, he can't be good at anything, can he? And then you just bring that same Jay Cutler-ishness to reality TV, and it's perfect. Perfect.
The only thing that scares me about him is he loves hunting, which means he has guns. And eventually, he's going to wind up snapping, too.
No, see, you're wrong. He's not the kind of personality snap. You know why? Doesn't care. He honestly doesn't seem to care about anything. He doesn't care about winning football games. He doesn't care about feeding goldfish.
Oh, he does care about the wife. You see that in the show. Even as he tries not caring, you can see that he cares.
I mean, he did buy her a brand new house for,
Well, because he was bored and wanted to do something. That's why he bought a house. That you didn't buy it for her. She didn't want the house.
But he wasn't bored enough to find a job. She brought that up. Like, should you do something? Like, no, I don't see me doing a lot this year.
I'm watching my hunting. I'm watching the camera set up. I'm watching the deer.
I've got to figure out their travel patterns for when it's time to hunt. This is a full-time job. Yeah, no, I get it. But there's not a lot he cares about. Let's just be honest. He doesn't care. No. He doesn't care enough to snap. Not ever. People who snap are people who care way too much. Jay Cutler does not have that in him.
He might snap. It might just be at a deer. Deer might come out missing its head and legs and body and heart. And
it's like, this was a real hunt. I didn't have a gun. I didn't have a bow and arrow. We did this hand-to-hand style. Fair enough. I could see that. Just like you could tell that Kristen Cavallari wants to be out of Tennessee so bad. I'm surprised she opened a business in the state that's going to keep her there. But I just don't think, I think he was like, I made all the money. We're staying here.
Could have came back to Indiana. Maybe that was his offset. Okay, we don't have to stay in Tennessee, but you got to move back to Indiana with me.
It's just like, no. I don't think he wanted to come back to Indiana. I don't think anybody voluntarily wants to come back to Indiana after they get out.
Technically, he could have bought the whole city he was born in.
Could have bought a lot of cities in Indiana, but his salary from last year from the Dolphins after taxes, could have bought the city he was born in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, we keep getting lost on Notre Dame. And the one thing I could say is you could clearly see that Notre Dame's offense as a whole functioned smoother when Ian Book played, even if it was just for spurts here and there, because it forced the defense to recognize the ability to complete an accurate pass.
I mean, just because I moved my safeties back 3 yards?
Yeah, it's how we had both of our rushing touchdowns, because now the safeties couldn't cheat into the box down low. Again, both times they brought him in, they had, in the goal line situations, they had zero intention of him passing the ball. But Michigan had to respect the potential. And again, 3rd and longs, that I think, again, you don't necessarily need to play him a series here, a series there. But when the situation dictates, like 3rd and long, sorry. Unless it's that 3rd and super long where you're just going to let the quarterback draw and then he runs for 22 yards, because I don't know how your defense didn't see the play that every college football coach runs, whether it's the quarterback draw or the halfback draw in that situation. I don't know. Your defense still just is like, no, we know this is exactly what they're going to run, but there's no chance. They're going to let him pass. They're going to let that bum pass on this situation. No. Your defensive coordinator was asleep at the wheel a little bit there.
I would say that first half, he had issues. Second half, they looked better.
Yeah, but that 3rd and 18 where he ran for 22 yards was in the second half.
Well, I think part of it was the heat, and they were starting to cramp, and I think they were starting to get pushed because they were getting tired because they were on the fucking field for all fucking game.
Well, and I also think, I mean, again, if there's one thing you can say about Brandon Wimbush, as a quarterback, he is a very special runner. Like, he is very Tommy Frazier-esque, to say the least.
Is that a compliment or a negative?
As a runner, it's a compliment. I think it's probably the most accurate comparison, period.
I was going to say, right? I just don't know if you were trying to compliment him or not.
No, I like Tommy Frazier. Again, but he ran a completely different offense where he could run that whole offense because that's all he was asked to do. Triple option and, hey, a triple option to a pass. Okay, there you go. Because then you get the same advantage Navy gets or that where you run 85% of the time, so when you finally pass, it's like, oh, crap. We don't have a safety anywhere near there, so you can just float the ball up. So again, it would work right for Brandon Wimbush. Maybe he should have went to Georgia Tech. He'd have been super there. But I'm glad we have him because again, I think between him and Book, you get exactly what you need to be a competent team.
You're going to need Book a lot more later on this year, or you're going to end up about
9-3,
8-4, 9. Yeah.
Somewhere around where we were last year. Because again, he does taps out of what he can do, and he becomes. Does he have to throw to keep defenses honest when he's in there? 100%.
Yes.
But do you want him throwing in high leverage situations? Probably not. So they could talk about all those strides he made and how much better he was, and you know how he carried the team on his back, as Brian Kelly said. Like, get the fuck out of here with that noise. He did not carry that defense. Carried the team on their back last night. They did not give up an offensive touchdown until they went to prevent defense. That was the first time they gave up an offensive touchdown to Michigan in 2 years. And at least you could give Brian Kelly for not even waiting to halftime to make the halftime adjustment of all halftime adjustments, where he's like, I don't care what my special teams coach thinks. We're not trying to pin Michigan at the 22 instead of 25. We're just putting in the good kicker and we're putting the ball to the back of the fucking end zone.
You get your ass out there and put the ball through the end zone. That's what the conversation was.
It's like, I don't care what you thought you were doing. It's not working. You go. The only thing that was disappointing is he didn't do it after the first big kickoff return and let the kickoff return for a touchdown happen. Without that game's really boring in the second half.
But we'll see how both seasons turn up. I don't think I was as bad as I looked. I think there's points to grow, especially on my defense. I think my defense coordinator was not prepared. He thought he was, again, I think the before big plays he had were let me lob it up there and pray my guy comes down with the ball.
No, I mean, obviously there's some of that. And I mean, but that's also the advantage with Brandon Wimbush is he's going to keep your linebackers for sure up in the box every play, and sometimes your safeties are going to get caught cheating up too.
Yep.
Also, obviously, a big turning point was the targeting by your starting safety, where 2 plays later he gets the over the top of the replacement safety's head touchdown, and not over his head like, hey, he got beat by 6 steps over the top of his head, like over the top of his head as the receiver's arms reached over his head and grabbed the ball off his face mask over his head.
Yeah, that one was a little hard there to swallow.
But I don't pay enough attention to Michigan football to know how good they'll be. But again, for some reason, somehow, you keep seeing all these articles. Is Harbaugh's act wearing thin? Is Harbaugh's time starting to run out? I don't know. I think he's got at least another year. I don't see if this team doesn't improve drastically on offense. And I mean drastically. And you could see last night, they still don't even know who they want to be. Do they want to be a power running team that play actions? Do they want to be a spread team that throws the ball around and tries to run out of that? They're not beating Ohio State, and if he goes 10-2 and loses to Notre Dame and Michigan, I do feel like he'll be on a hot seat next year. I don't feel like this is the year, but I feel like next year could be the year.
I think you're right. As long as the money still comes in, which the money will be there this year, so I don't think he has any problems. But if the money starts slowing down, then that's where he needs to start worrying. But again, you said it earlier as we were talking about this. Who are you going to find better? Who are you going to find? What are you going to do? You're not going to go to Jimbo Fisher $75 million to come in.
Well, again, how does Jimbo Fisher do in Michigan? I think, again, I said, like I said earlier, it's my view on Brian Kelly when you get Notre Dame fans to get up in arms. It's like, who are you finding this better? And also, I think it's just time for some of these programs in the Midwest and the North that are legitimate academic institutions. Sorry, Ohio State, that's not you. Because you clearly just concluded an investigation to cover up a liar who hid domestic violence, who hid a pattern of domestic violence to hire a coach that was, so you could not have to...
Wait. A coach?
Well, I'm just saying, obviously there was one who had a pattern because he had committed his first acts and Urban Meyer admitted to knowing about them at Florida.
Well, everybody seems to know about Greg Schiano, too, and he hired him.
Greg Schiano's a different case, and that's...
And then your favorite guy what's his name? Brian Wilson from Indiana? Is that the guy's name?
Kevin Wilson. He's just bad. He's a bad head coach. He's not a bad... I don't
know. The stories that the kids said that he did to them.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. Again, you're not going to ever get me to defend the worst person as a head coach at Urban Meyer in college football. But my point is that Ohio State should have never been allowed to investigate themselves. He clearly admitted to lying to the press about it. Again, trying to keep the bad publicity because that's what he cares about.
Right.
And to pretend that, well, he didn't really mean to mislead you. He just misspoke. No, the motherfucker deleted a year's worth of text messages and was trying to tell other people how to delete them too to cover his tracks. Like,
I'll put it this way. You do not get a trustee on your board to resign 2 days after that because of this without you not telling me everything else that's in there. Because he knew something else that came in that documents and that didn't come public that he'd seen. Because trustees just don't walk away from the nice jobs.
No, you don't spend the time and effort to get elected to that position to walk away. I don't think trustees get paid as much as you think they do.
Well, I was talking. He got the trustee. He got the name trustee.
Right,
he wanted it because you just don't get it. I mean, they don't just hand it to you. No, you must have wanted it. You must have requested it.
You run for that position.
Yeah, okay.
Most universities, your alumni board. There's somebody appointed. I'm sure there are some appointed positions, but I know there. I get the emails from IU every couple of years. Hey, time to vote for your alumni trustees. Right. So I know at least some of it's elected positions. But
I get even if you're appointed, you have to still said yes. So, I mean, there was some kind of pride he had there taking that job. And then 2 days later, he just walks away and sends his resignation in. And then you pretty much say, well, he disagreed with us, so he decided to resign.
Well, and I applaud people like that. There need to be more people at college universities saying no. On a moral standpoint, this guy is a terrible human being to be the leader of young men. And if you're going to cover up more of his bad humaning and bad leadership, because there is nobody who can tell me Urban Meyer is fit to lead young men. He is fit to win football games, that's fine. But if that's your only objective as a college football program, then you need to take the tag of amateurism off and pay the damn kids. Because if that's all you're worried about, when you go into those homes and you continue to say, well, we're offering you a free education and we're going to help mold the minds of these young men and we're going to help make them the leaders of the next generation, you're fucking lying when you allow a guy like Urban Meyer, human trash, to run your program, to be the highest employed state employee. And it should go above and beyond Ohio State at this point, and somebody at the State House should void his contract. Sorry, we're paying it. He's gone.
Right.
He can't be a state employee anymore. End of discussion.
And by the way, Eli Apple, your mother is so awesome tearing into him like that.
Well, again, you may send your kids to play for him, but I think at this point there's no parent who sends their kid to Ohio State who doesn't know the garbage human being that Urban Meyer is. Like, I'm sorry. You know who he is. You know what he stands for or doesn't stand for. He doesn't believe in disciplining these kids. He doesn't believe in holding them accountable. He clearly doesn't with his coaching staff either. So it's not about young men. It's about, period. He doesn't want anything that will impact his ability to win football games. That's all he gives a shit about, is his own ego, his own victories, and his own pride. And it's a shitty way to run a college football program. But
I think we beat that one a little bit. I think we should go to something a little bit more happier for me.
Well, I want to get back to the point I was trying to make, which is that if you're a serious academic institution in the Midwest, that maybe you need to recalibrate your expectations for your football program. You can be a Michigan and Notre Dame and have a glorious history, both 11 national championships, tied for second most. But it's awful hard to compete against schools in the South and on the West Coast who have better climate, who have better resources, who have, let's be very honest, lower academic standards for these kids to get into and easier academic classes to maintain eligibility once they're there.
All but you, Stanford and Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I mean, there are always exceptions to the rule. But let's not pretend like Tallahassee, Florida State has the same rigid standards that Notre Dame or Michigan have, okay? Let's just be real. Jameis Winston can't speak English. How the fuck did he write English?
And I know there's always exceptions, but I've heard some people walking out of the University of Michigan and Notre Dame, and they do public talking, and I'm sitting there like...
But it's pretty rare in both of those cases.
Correct.
Let's just be honest. When you see an Alabama-Auburn post-game interview, you're like, did any of these guys say any words that resemble a complete English sentence? I don't think they did. And again, there are probably guys. I'm sure there are guys that are very eloquent and well spoken, and I'm obviously exaggerating for effect. But Alabama is not the academic institution that most of these other schools are.
Right.
You know, on the whole, the Big Ten is a better academic league than the SEC or the Big 12 that has 10 teams, or most of these.
I think the Big 12 has 8 teams now, doesn't it?
I don't know. I can't keep track. But, the Big Ten is kind of academically one step below the Ivies, although that's changing now that they're adding like Nebraska and Rutgers, and nothing against these schools, but not the research universities that most of the Big 12, 10 schools have been.
Right.
But my point being, again, is that maybe you just have to admit, yeah, we want to win football games. We want to compete at the highest level, but we're not going to ease our standards so much that to win national championships these other schools are doing. And we're okay going 9-4 and 10-3, with an occasional 7-6 sprinkled in there when we have a really tough schedule or things don't break right. Like, that should be fine. And we're going to make a lot of money doing it, and we're okay.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the calibration that some of these schools need to make. But yeah, you're right. I think we've beaten at least the first Saturday of college football to death because there wasn't a whole lot going on other than Chip Kelly not remembering how to coach college football all of a sudden. But I think that's just going to take some time, get his guys in.
Yeah. Well, he did lose a starting quarterback again, too.
I think he's better off losing this starting quarterback because that starting quarterback is not fit for his system.
No, it wasn't. But at least he was a senior and he had some...
But again, if you're Chip Kelly, you've never worried about seniors, and I think I think that's some of the NFL sneaking back with him, and he's got to shake that rust off and just remember, no, in college I can get away with running my system. It doesn't matter. I don't need the best of the best players. I think you go to the NFL, you learn that yes, players win games, not systems. College is a whole different beast, and he's just going to take some time to remember that. But speaking of the NFL, there was kind of a pretty big trade that affected a team here in the Midwest. I don't know if anybody heard about this. I feel like it should have been bigger news than it was. I don't feel like it got much media coverage. Anybody? Did you hear about this? Again, it seems to be a pretty well hidden secret here in the Midwest. But the Bears traded for Khalil Mack. I don't know if you know this.
I kind of heard something about it, but I didn't quite grasp all of the concept of it.
Well, but anyways, yeah. So somehow one of the best defenders in the NFL, in his prime, 4 year just after his 4th year in the league, got traded for the low price of 2 first-round picks, and then a second and third swap, and a 5th and a 6th swap. And let's not worry about that.
2 first-round picks.
Yeah, 2 first-round picks for a defender who, and I know some of the media were trying to make this point at the press conference today, where they asked the GM for the Bears, was it worth giving up 2 first-round picks to get Khalil Mack? Here's going to be my opinion. Yeah, because this isn't trading 3 first-rounders to move up a few spots to take RG3. This isn't, even as good as Carson Wentz has looked at, this isn't trading a boatload of picks to go up and get Carson Wentz. This is trading for a known NFL commodity. Even on the most optimistic side, where you hit on about 50% of your first-round picks, you get one NFL quality player out of your first-round picks out of those 2. Not one NFL superstar out of those 2 picks. Now, this is the counterpoint to that, and it's kind of interesting to think about. Is now you've committed over $20 million of cap room per year over the next 6 years, essentially, when you hand them a 6-year, $140 million contract to a defensive player in a game that's basically doing everything it can to minimize the defensive side. Football is, how do you build a winning team around that? Well, the Bears are in one of the positions where you can do that. You have a quarterback under a rookie contract. Mm-hmm. That's when you have to spend the money like this. It's funny because as a Steelers fan, you saw a lot of people, well, why didn't the Steelers try and trade for him? Load up and go for Bear. You can't pay Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown and Cameron Hayward and then slap 20 more plus million more on a Khalil Mack. It just doesn't fit in the cap.
And you still have Bell. I mean, you actually have to pay him. I mean, if he shows up, I don't know what his cap number will be. I'm assuming 15-ish?
Yeah, some like 14-ish, 15.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. I mean, again, almost $1 million a game. So for people who are preposterous as James Harrison to say, well, he should sit out to the last possible minute to protect himself for free agency. Motherfucker, you ain't turned down $1 million a game to play either. Don't be dishonest, James.
I mean, you did sign a contract with the Patriots, who you hated.
Yeah, let's 100. Keep it 100. You would have reported too. I get it. Yes, the franchise tag setup needs to change, and there's a lot wrong with that in terms of what it does. Both in terms of just making, I think, Le'Veon Bell think he's worth more than he is, because he sees Todd Gurley's contract and thinks he's worth more, and he may end up getting more. So good for him. I always applaud guys who bet on themselves, and I always side with those guys. Like, trust me, I'd rather him have the money than an owner, but there's also a salary cap, and
right.
If you have to pay Le'Veon Bell and Roethlisberger and Brown and Cam Hayward and Stephen Tuitt and that offensive line, not as much money for Le'Veon Bell if you want to win football games. Now what may work for him is that the Colts will have a lot of salary cap room and he can go play with Andrew Luck possibly next year, and that's fine too. But the Steelers were not in a position to trade for Khalil Mack, and I know there were reports of about a dozen teams trying to trade for him, but they were all, any teams that were doing it would have had to been in a similar position to the Bears, where they're not a team trying to get over the hump Super Bowl competition wise, but they're teams trying to go from bad to mediocre to good.
And that was one of the questions today to Ryan Pace. How many people were you actually going against? And he said, there's a lot of media reports out there, but there wasn't a lot of people who could do it and then pay the man.
Right. I mean, ultimately, that was probably a handful of teams that could have pulled it off. And then you get into some of the teams, and it's, even if you're the Browns, who can both offer up the picks and pay the man, you're a little farther behind yet in your rebuild than even the Bears, because at least the Bears' defense is pretty good before you had Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
And then you had Khalil Mack. Now your biggest weakness, which is probably your corner position, gets a lot better because quarterbacks have less time to read the field.
You can only double team one.
Yeah, I mean, so, again, you don't know what Roquan Smith is, but if you're trading for an established NFL player, go nuts. What do you have to lose at that point? So, do I think it makes them a playoff team in the NFC? No, not this year. But I think you lock them in for 6 years. You've got 2 more, really after this, 2 more years of a cost control on Trubisky.
We got the 5th year too,
but that 5th year is the average of the top 10 quarterback pays salaries. I'm going to hate to point this out. Those salary numbers are getting pretty up there.
True.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Kirk Cousins turning it down $90 million guaranteed because he doesn't want to play for the Jets, those numbers are big. So that 5th year had so cost controlled for a quarterback. So, but again, that's the key. Maximize your window. Put yourself in a position where you can make these things happen. So no, I don't have an issue with it. Again, I don't think it leapfrogs them past Green Bay in the division or Minnesota in the division. I don't think it gets them past, the Eagles or unfortunately they don't play in the NFC West. That's the most up in the air division this year. But yeah, I think it was a smart trade.
It makes it more exciting as a Bear fan. It makes it more exciting because looking at those linebackers, looking at that defensive line, as you said, the secondary is the weakest, but it's going back to our roots. We're a defensive team. The defense is always going to lead that team. I don't care. You can say Mitch Trubisky is the leader of the team. Guess what? No. It will always be somebody in that front 7 for the Bears.
I feel like that's safe to say. I mean, some teams just have an identity, franchise-wide, although you think Steelers, you think defense, and that ain't been the case the last couple of years. I mean, they were better last year with Shazier than they had been in some of the other stuff they had added. Then Shazier got hurt, and it put a whole different spin on things. But they're still, I mean, they've really been the killer bees the last couple of years, and this year it'll be the same. So it's not one of those cases where you get the advantage of them following their identity, and it's been worked out pretty well for them.
Yeah, but it's the teams winning the Super Bowls have a good offense, but there's also that defense there. You're not, as you've seen, Atlanta was going to win, and then their defense just completely shit off the ground.
I mean, somewhat. I mean, that defense got put in some bad positions by some of the most conservative offense down the stretch as well.
True.
And again, some of the worst end of the game clock management ever in a Super Bowl, and a fluky, lucky, tipped up in the air and still caught pass. So I mean,
I know there was luck there, but again, it wasn't a great defense.
Plus, the Super Bowl highlighted some of the worst things of the overtime rules in the NFL, where you tried to fix the first team that gets the ball, goes down and scores and wins on a field goal, but if they're a touchdown, it's okay. Did you really want a Super Bowl ended on the team that won the coin toss?
Right.
Like that still highlighted some issues. I think college by far has the better overtime rules. I'm not sure if you'd want to use 25 for the NFL, maybe the 35, just to make it a little more difficult on the field goal kick. But here or there. Yeah, right. I think defense, you have to have some semblance of defense to be competitive for a Super Bowl. But as you say that, I see last year's Super Bowl where neither of those teams' defenses showed up. There wasn't a lick of defense played in that. So much so that a backup quarterback caught a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. That's how little defense was played. I'm just saying, every offensive record was broken last year.
True, okay.
And again, that gets back to that question is, what is the future of defense in the NFL as these helmet rules go more impacted, as they continue to trend towards player safety? We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Well, we talked about the good side. What about the Oakland side of this trade?
So from Oakland, I see the point as well. You've got already $20 million plus committed to Derek Carr. You've got some other commitments on your line. You've got some commitments you're going to have to make. You've got a new regime taking over. Reggie McKenzie is not the GM. He got the job title, but he ain't running that front office. Let's just be real here. So that's not his forte. That's not his area. It's John Gruden's world. And John Gruden's always going to be an offense-first guy. So the question gets to be, is the assets worth what you gave up? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a pretty good haul for any player in the NFL. Like, trust me, I think had the Steelers legitimately any time in the last 2 years been offered 2 first rounds for Le'Veon Bell, it would have been peace. They'd have been done with that headache. As much as I'm glad that hasn't happened because I like getting to watch him play for the Steelers. But again, for 2 first rounders is a good haul no matter, this side of a franchise quarterback or a potential franchise quarterback. That's as good as you're going to get. So I think they maximized what the return was going to be. And again, it helps them say, we got a lot of problems on our defense. If we commit $20 million to one guy, we're not going to be able to fix the rest of it.
Right.
So sometimes that's always the thing I say in all sports. At some point, you have to pick a direction and stake towards it. And if you're the Raiders and you know you got to rebuild your defense, paying Khalil Mack comes out to almost $25 million a year, really gets to be a really tough pill to swallow in a league with a salary cap. We can't sit here and pretend as if there's not, an actual cap. This isn't baseball where you can spend forever. This isn't basketball where you can basically navigate around the salary cap however you want, with their terrible rules for their salary cap. There's actual limits in place to what you can spend. So you have to make some of those tough calls sometimes. So you maximize the return. It sets the precedent that you're not, if we pick up your 5th year option, we're not paying you till after the 5th year option's done, unless you're a quarterback. Fair enough. Quarterbacks are treated differently in this league. That's fine.
So if I get my Khalil Mack jersey by next Saturday, what's the chances we can go to Rocks, our local football place, on Sundays to watch the game?
Well, I have to work next Sunday, so I'm 0.
You know what I was getting at, though.
Yeah, I know what you're getting at. Yeah. I mean, I never have a problem going out to watch football. And then, again, if you can get your Khalil Mack jersey, get your Khalil Mack jersey and enjoy.
I was thinking it would Rock serve me food.
Oh. Yeah, he'd serve you food, but he'd just be angry the whole time because he's like, fuck, God, yeah. That's just how he is. But
and I did check on jersey. They won't ship them out to the 28th of September.
I mean, you got to have some time to make them. But yeah, I get what you're getting at there. I guess it took me a minute. So yeah. So as I say, there's some big comings and goings there. This is Sunday night, so we just got to watch Javy Baez hit home run 30 for the year, 100 RBIs, 300 batting average, 299 and some change.
And he's got to be around at least 10 triples for this year.
I don't know. Oh, he had such a ridiculous proportion of his hits are extra base hits this year. It's hilarious. And anybody who ever wants to accuse me of hopping on the Javy Baez bandwagon when it's getting good now, you can suck my dick from the back. My Facebook post from the last 5 years will prove I was on the Javy Baez train well before anybody else. Before he became the Steph Curry of the MLB. I said it. He's the Steph Curry because you have to watch every time because that's how exciting he is on offense, on defense, on the bases. He is somebody you tune in to watch. He is the MLB version of a heat check. The only difference is there's no league pass for MLB for you to just kind of tune in when the going gets good. You almost have to watch all the time because you never know when that play is coming, where he's just going to make you go, what the fuck? How the hell? And again, it's one thing as a fan when you have those what the hell moments, but when you watch other big league players have the how the hell moments, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I guess it's not just us who don't understand how this is happening. It's just everybody who's like, it's again, he is the MLB's version of Steph Curry.
And by the way, defensively, he needs dual glove for second base, shortstop, and third base, because any position you play, you can't name somebody better defensively than him.
Again, I made the case that he may not win a Gold Glove because he doesn't have a position, enough for the voters to say, hey, this is who I'm giving it to him here. But he definitely deserves the Platinum Glove for best defender in the National League. Old,
cranky white guys who vote for this reward Javy Baez. I don't care where you gave him a glove. He needs one. He deserved it.
Oh, yeah, he's absolutely won a Defensive Player of the Year award of some magnitude. And I get that the Gold Glove's the standard, but again, where do you give it to him at? Do you give him to? I mean, it's tough.
He's got to have enough at second base to qualify.
Base. Yeah, well, I think he has enough at all three positions to qualify because I think it's a
third base.
Low.
Third base would be the issue if he won.
Although he might get some more if they decide to play Addison Russell ever since he's been activated. He might get some more run at third base, but we'll see because they've been trotting Chris Bryant out at left field the last couple nights to be like, where do we play all these people? We're already got places to play people.
Well, Chris Bryant played right field because Jason Hayward went to the DL today.
Okay, but
I know.
Microphone man.
Yeah,
you can't talk into the nowhere and then be surprised when people can't hear you. Again, we're not just talking to ourselves. There's people listening. People all over the world are listening, by the way. I want you to remember that. People all over the world are listening to us talk nonsense about sports. But they're going to take away from this the key take that Javy Baez is the Steph Curry of MLB and absolutely deserves the MVP in the NL this year. Mm-hmm. I challenge you to find a player who has meant more to his team than Javy Baez this year. Because I want you to think about this from a legitimate standpoint. The Cubs were supposed to have the best rotation they've had since they've been the Cubs this year. Their two free agent acquisitions were absolute busts. Kyle Hendricks couldn't find it in the first half. There was a stretch in the middle of the season where John Lester couldn't find it.
Don't forget about Jose Quintana. You got to talk about him too, because
he's been Jose Quintana. He's going to pitch 200 innings. His ERA is going to be just under 4. He's going to be Jose Quintana. There was a little stretch where he was a little rough, but it was never like an atrocious stretch where he was just absolutely bad. Whereas Kyle Hendricks and John Lester had some stretches where they were just absolutely bad. And Mike Montgomery had some good stretches and some bad. You trade for Cole Hamels just hoping for somebody to help stabilize the back end of the rotation, and he becomes the guy who could have won a Cy Young if he'd pitched this way all year. But I don't expect that to continue. But you just need him to be good,
right?
But not only did your pitching staff flame out in spectacular fashion from potentially being the best the Cubs have had since the Epstein regime has taken over. Always one of my points of problem with the Epstein regime is that they just, no matter where they've been, cannot identify starting pitching. Not in the draft, not in free agency. They just don't do it well. They usually their best bets are trading for people who are buy low, overperform guys. But you had that. You had Chris Bryant has missed 2 months of the season.
Yep.
So you have an MVP missing. You had Anthony Rizzo, who might as well have missed 2 months of the season the way he played for a stretch there.
Yeah.
You had injuries you had Addison Russell, who's played nothing like what you expected. Kyle
Schwarber's had periods of crap too this year. So, you just continue adding on to.
Wilson Contreras hasn't taken the next step that everybody expected to. He's been solid.
Yeah.
But he's not been spectacular.
Your center field's been. I watched Ian Happ again. Oh, Jesus, please do not let him continue playing in the outfield. I take better routes to the baseball than he does.
And Jason Hayward's performed actually as good as you could have hoped for. He's hitting right around 280. He's played Gold Glove defense out in right field again. He's everything you signed for. It's the first time in his 3 years with the Cubs he's lived up to his contract completely.
And if I would have known any better, I know Ben Zobrist has another year in that contract, but I would have said this was a contract year for Ben Zobrist. The way he's hitting over 300, he's got power, a little bit of power bat left.
Well, but I also think it's that he hasn't played as much as he has in the past. It's usually 2 games, game off, 2 games, game off.
Right.
So they clearly learned from last year that he is at the end of his run. He can't play every day anymore.
Well, he might also be healthy. They kept saying he was hurt all last year. I don't know how much of that was an excuse or he really was hurt, but
that's tough to tell. And yeah, you could tell he's healthier, but is he healthier because he was hurt, or is he healthier because he's not playing as much? Gets to be the chicken and the egg.
And by the way, Theo Epstein, Jeb Hoyer, you need to. Madden needs to take you in a quarter, and you guys need to do something with him because Javier Baez would have been traded if it was up to you two.
Yeah, that's just another one of those things. Clearly, the Cubs have the best record in the National League, despite all these things that have gone wrong. Name me anybody else on a top contender who's helped stabilize and carry his team as much as Javy Baez is. There's nobody this year. I know his numbers don't jump off the page as much as some of the past do, where you get the, 50 home runs, but they've worked harder to deaden the ball this year. They've definitely unjuiced the ball this year. And I'm not the only person who's noticed that the home run numbers are down, pretty consistently. There's nobody pitching stupid out of their mind in the National League on a good team.
And by the way, if this is really the work product with Chili Davis, he needs a raise. Javy Baez is not striking out. He's spitting on that ball that's off the corner and that's cutting. He's seeing it. He's like, yeah, right. I ain't swinging at that crap anymore.
He's still striking out plenty.
I know, but he's down. I think he's below 20 now.
He's at league average at least, which is all you could hope for out of him.
When he started, he was at 40. So
yeah, and it's the thing I think we forget, that some players have that natural progression where they actually learn to hit in the big leagues. Like, you don't become a polished hitter down in the minors because, unfortunately, you see enough mistakes if you're a Javy Baez where you can hit that hanging breaking ball or that fastball that shouldn't be thrown to you, and you just crush it and your stats look great. So you don't have to learn discipline until you get pitchers that are like, I'm just going to throw you every pitch a low and away slider until you figure out not to swing at it. Or you figure out how to hit it, which he's done both this year, by the way.
Right.
Even when he does swing at it, he's mastered taking that. That's fine. I just hit into the right field bleachers. We're good. Yeah.
Well, as I said, I wanted to give Chili that because I was threatening his life earlier this year watching the games and everybody striking out and nobody making contact, and he was our new hitting coach and nobody was hitting the damn ball anywhere.
Well, I mean, some of that's just right on the lines of when you get some of these people who blame sabermetrics for how boring baseball has gotten, and they're right. Like, there are too many managers and too many GMs who have become okay accepting just walk home run, forgetting that baseball is at its best and it's exciting to watch for fans when there's doubles to the gap. Javy Baez like, fuck it, I'm going for 3. I don't care. Going for 3.
You can't make that throw.
Even if you do, watch me swim around this tag, bitch. I got you. Like, again, he has turned tagging and sliding into must-watch TV. Even Steph Curry doesn't come that complete in terms of, like, having to watch everything he does. Steph Curry still makes NBA players marvel with the way he can shoot. But again, as my man Sam Tripoli on the Punch Drunk podcast will point out, you know, when you look at Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, these guys grew up at the country clubs and had the best coaching in the world when it came to shooting. You know, they both grew up at NBA gyms and had NBA level coaching from the time they picked up a basketball. Of course they should outshoot guys who grew up at the park learning how to shoot. Of course they should. But it still makes you sit there and marvel at them because they're that good. But it's one thing with Steph Curry. It's the shooting. Javy Baez, it is the complete game that makes you go, holy shit. That just happened.
And he does steal home, too. I mean, I'm still shocked at the number of times he's stolen home.
That's twice this year. But I'm a little disappointed his stolen bases have stalled out because he's at 21 still. Or 20, maybe he's up to 22.
Well,
but I really wanted a 30-30 season out of him. That would have been a really capper.
I think part of his problem is now he's sitting behind, he's sitting in front of Rizzo, and they're like, no.
No, I saw him get caught stealing third a week ago. He's still making some attempts, but yeah, I think some of it is his shuffle in the lineup has definitely affected his how he can run and when he can run because of how the people who are batting when he's running are getting pitched. So that does impact that. But my also other Javy Baez related note from this week in Javy Baez news and proof that Joe West needs suspended from baseball for a little bit. Javy Baez has not found a pitch he won't swing at. If that ball is anywhere near the strike zone, he will hack at it. He has the highest swinging rate in Major League Baseball, or second at the lowest. He swings at the most or second most pitches in baseball. It was a full count. Javy Baez took the pitch, and then Joe West had the gall to try and talk shit to Javy Baez after he barked at him. Like, no, I don't need a digital strike zone. I don't need a robot umpire to tell me. That was a fucking ball, Joe West. Javy Baez did swing. That's all you need for benefit of the doubt. That man, if it was close, he was hacking. He didn't swing. It's a ball, okay? Then you have the nerve to talk back when he complains a little bit. No, you suck at your job, and you need to take the criticism, because obviously when the league office criticizes you, it's not getting through.
No.
And these umpires need to stop having the power to eject players when they don't like how they're getting talked to than when they could talk to a player however they choose and not face any repercussions. So, no, I do think Joe West needs a suspension. He goes up there in the annals of the Angel Hernandezes for me for guys who probably shouldn't be umpires. They're that bad. There are just some guys who don't get it, who will never get it, and have no business being Major League umpires. And Joe West is one of those guys. He wants to be the show. No, you're an umpire. You're not the show. You're not good at your job. You're not consistent. No. Just no. And again, Javy Baez didn't swing at the pitch. That's all you need to know. I've seen him swing at pitches that bounced to the plate. I've seen him swing at balls that would have gone behind Anthony Rizzo in the right-hand batter's box. I've seen him swing at balls up at his chin. There's not a pitch he hasn't met that he didn't like to swing at. Him and Vlad Guerrero, if they don't swing, it's not a strike.
Yeah.
End of discussion. You should apologize. Like, I'm sorry I blew that call. Like, I get it. I just let the ego go and say, I'm sorry, my bad. So that's kind of the end of my Javy Baez news. I think that takes us pretty deep into this episode. But there was a new segment that we started last episode. And like I said, gave Todd some homework. And he was actually a little upset that we didn't record last week because he did his homework. And he has some headlines. And he's got some ones. I don't know if he brought some of the same ones or if he started all fresh again. But he's got some headlines for us. And as always, the whole purpose of this the headline segment is that I have no clue what they are. And I give you the just fresh off the top of my head rant, whether that be good, bad, or otherwise. And anybody who listens knows usually rants lead to angry ranting from me. It's very seldom that you're going to get like nice, politeful, respectful, kind, thoughtful analysis, but we'll see.
All right.
Although you get some of that too.
Well, the first one, Jimmy Butler willing to take a trade to Lakers to play with LeBron this year. I knew that.
I'm sorry, it's taking me a minute for my eyes to roll back to their normal position after they rolled to the back of my head. First off, I love Jimmy Buckets. There's no bigger Jimmy Buckets fan in the entire NBA than me. There's just not. Love that man. I love his work ethic, what he's become. But, dude, come on. I thought you were one of the last guys left with that bulldog mentality. Like, no, I'll get you. I'm not going with you. I'm getting you. But, clearly you don't. I get it. He is clearly not happy in Minnesota. He is not happy playing with Karl Anthony Towns, and he's not even more not happy playing with Andrew Wiggins.
Right.
He is not happy with the way those guys work and what they bring to the table. And he's at that point in his career where I just don't think he wants to play with young guys who don't want to play the full game. So I understand him wanting out. I just hate that he wants to go play with LeBron in LA. Like, I'm over people wanting to just hop on. I get it. But again, if you could put him and LeBron on a team in the West, they suddenly become a really good, really dangerous team, even to Golden State. So if you go there and sign there as a free agent, I understand. I just hate that you're advocating like, yeah, I'd go there in a trade. Like, first off, you're under contract and have no trade clause. So if you get traded, you get traded. Like, that's the deal. You don't get to pick that. But I think you know as well as the rest of us, Tom Thibodeau's not trading you. As a matter of fact, let's just be real. Can we start the clock till Tom Thibodeau signs Luol Deng? And then when the Knicks finally waive Joakim Noah, can we start the clock till he signs Joakim Noah? Because the Timber Bulls won't be the Timber Bulls if he doesn't sign all the old Bulls. He's going to bring back his squad and run it back again from 2011 in 2018.
I can still win with this team.
And he could probably win enough games to make a playoff spot again. But he ain't going to contend for anything with that squad. So, no. Again, yes, there's a lot of eye roll, and there's a lot of just frustration with the fact that it's LeBron. But I also understand why Jimmy's frustrated and angry in Minnesota. Like, Andrew Wiggins, from the minute he came in the league, everybody knew he had the potential to, again, similar to Zach LaVine, has the athleticism to be a great defender, just no interest in doing so. And he's a garbage defender because of it. And even worse is he has a better physical skill set than LaVine to be a better defender. Close, but better.
All right. Headline 2. This one irritated me when I read it. Shea Patterson is required to ask Charles Woodson if he can wear his number 2 at Michigan. Not really caring about the names. I'm more of the process they had to go through for that.
Well, but see, the names matter in there. Again, there are certain numbers at certain institutions that hold a place of privilege, whether it's 2 because of Charles Woodson in Michigan or 3 at Notre Dame because of all the quarterbacks that have worn that. If you're not a quarterback, then 3 is not as doesn't carry that same stigma. I think at Michigan, though, I think there's always just been that number 2 is always not many guys have worn it, if I'm not mistaken.
Not since he left, correct.
Right. So it's just always been that number that even though it's never been officially retired because they just really don't do that in college football because of the sheer number of guys on a squad, where you're talking 75 scholarships plus, another, 20 walk-ons at least. You're already up to kind of 95 numbers you need at least, where you end up with duplicate numbers on offense and defense already. You're not going to get retired numbers, but there are some where I can understand why. You're not really a true blue Michigan guy when you're Shea Patterson. You came there because of a chance to start after you really didn't get to start much at Ole Miss. That's why he left. Let's keep it 100 here. He didn't leave because they were in trouble and he couldn't play in bowl games. He left because he was a part-time starter at Ole Miss and saw a chance to start and give himself a reboot. So yeah, you're not. I fully support that concept. I'm okay with players selling numbers to other players on other squads.
I got no problem. I got no problem in the NFL with that one. It's just the college one. When maybe rolled my eyes. It's okay if you hold it, take it off. Because it's still number 2, no matter what Shea Patterson does in this jersey. Guess what? You're not going to top Charles Woodson. You can win the Heisman. It's still Charles Woodson's number.
Well, yeah. I mean, I do see that, and I mean. I don't know. I guess it didn't lead to the reaction I think you were hoping for out of me.
Well, like I said, that one made me roll my eyes. That's why I included that one.
Yeah, it didn't really affect me. I have no problem with certain numbers being sacred and special. So,
all right. Topic 3: boxer leaves ring after bell to protest money.
My man, there are so many people. I mean, let's be real. He took such a stand. This is the equivalent of the UFC fighters who have gotten fired or not had their contracts renewed for trying to support the UFC Fighters Union. This guy walked out, went through the whole pre-fight, went through a camp, made his opponent go through a whole pre-camp, go through all the hassle walking out, signed his contract and said, look, you're not paying us enough, I'm walking out because you still have to pay me at that point. I showed up. I don't know. He may still he may lose money out of that. I don't know the specifics of the contract, but he showed up. He was there and he's just like, I'm going to make everybody aware of how little you're paying us for this. And I'm going to make sure that it brings attention to the fact that he'll probably never box again, at least on a legitimate place, because they're not going to sign him. They're not going to put him up on a pay-per-view or anything like that again.
Right.
So, I mean, you're risking your livelihood to bring to the point, there's a set of guys who do nothing but move paperwork that are making millions of dollars off this. Why am I making so little? And it's the same thing with the UFC fighters who are pushing for a fighters union. So, I mean, again, if the UFC has got to the point where they, at least once upon a time, they paid, pay a fighter $40,000 to fight and $40,000 to win, and you could get a $50,000 bonus for a great fight. No, but by the time they pay their taxes and their lawyers and their fight camp, they weren't making a lot, but they could have their own, apparel contracts and things like that. And then the UFC went and signed the Reebok deal and gave them exclusivity, forcing all the fighters to wear Reebok and lose that revenue stream. So,
except Brock, he still gets to wear that fucking Jimmy John's shirt. It pisses me the fuck off.
Well, I don't know. I mean, fighters can wear whatever they want into the ring and after they leave, but they have to be in the octagon. They have to be in the Reebok gear,
right?
And they can't have endorsement deals with anybody else other than like maybe a Brock who has a one-off. Although Jimmy John's isn't really an apparel company. Like Nate Diaz has his Represented LTD company where he sells T-shirts and stuff like that. But, again, it's not like he's got to deal with Nike like he could have before.
Right.
So a lot of these fighters took that stance and said, look, I'm willing to not have a UFC contract to get a fighters union started because this is broken. They shouldn't sell, even on a bad pay-per-view where they sell 300,000, let's call it at an average of $75, you're suddenly at $2.25 million, and you're paying your fighters $40,000 to fight. Some of them $10,000 to fight.
Whew.
Yeah, I understand why some of that needs to change. I ain't give a shit about what Dana White does or Bruce Buffer telling Nate Diaz he needs to bow down. Fuck no. Nate Diaz had the perfect response. About a nobody for no amount of money. Fuck you, Bruce Buffer. You bow down to the UFC. You bowing down right now. Second tweet, no disrespect. That was full of disrespect. That's why we love you, Nate Diaz. And in other Diaz-related news, for those of you who don't pay attention, so apparently after all this hubbub about, oh my God, Nick Diaz committed domestic violence against this crazy stalker ex-girlfriend of his. I mean, this same crazy church-going lady that was an on-again, off-again girlfriend, as she claimed. Oops, her story kept changing to the Las Vegas Police Department, and the prosecutor dropped all charges with prejudice, so they can't be refiled. And now he's talking UFC comeback, baby. Gonna have both of the 209 boys back in the ring soon. So all you haters can suck it. Sorry. Yeah, I knew she was lying the minute she said a guy who does triathlons and eats a plant-based vegan diet did cocaine. It's like, nah. You're clearly lying. Like, first off, anybody who's ever met, dealt with the man had nothing but kind words to say. But then you also just read the fact, like, he was high on cocaine. Nah, dog. Sorry. So all you haters can suck it. Man's clean as a whistle as always. Not in the wrong.
All right, well, I'm going to skip the next one. I think we beat the Ohio State Urban Meyer.
Yeah, we covered that.
Okay. Justin Verlander gets $1 million bill from a hotel in L.A. for lunch with charge saying Dodger killer in World Series. Side note, his breakfast of pancakes and eggs cost $55.
Hey, guess what? You made the mistake of taking a chance on a tab in L.A. First off, you made the mistake of eating at a restaurant in L.A. after what you did. Yeah, you took all the chances of the world there. That was your own fault. Sorry. I mean, I think it's kind of funny. But, yeah, that's
I'm not paying $55 for pancakes and eggs. I don't care if I'm in L.A. or not.
I mean, when you make what he makes, who cares? That's $55.
All right. Next one. Cubs acquired Daniel Murphy. Other teams pass. Why?
Well, I mean, it was still a couple $1 million down the stretch, so it's still a significant cash investment. Obviously, it wasn't much of a prospect investment because the Cubs didn't have to invest much there.
They sent, I think, a dozen baseballs.
Whatever it was pittance and well worth it in comparison to what they get in exchange for Daniel Murphy, who's already their second best contact hitter behind Javy Baez, and absolutely helped bring that team out of their 5-game solo home run funk, and immediately upon arrival it's like, oh, hey, we can hit again, boom, boom, because it's one of those things, like, it's the thing that sabermetrics always fails to comprehend about baseball, is one player in a lineup can make a huge difference to the rest of the lineup. Like, you could sit there and talk about these guys in a vacuum and talk about them individually and their numbers, and it doesn't happen that way. It's all about who's hitting in front of you, who's hitting behind you, Well, and the funniest thing is, Daniel Murphy, who cannot run anymore, is now the leadoff hitter for the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs have not had a traditional leadoff hitter since Dexter Fowler, and even he was sort of traditional in a sense, but not in other ways. But again, anytime you can run out a lineup that involve, when you have all of these guys to decide who your infield is going to be, when you have Anthony Rizzo and Javy Baez and Ian Happ and Ben Zobrist and Daniel Murphy and Addison Russell and
Chris Bryant.
I was going to go David Bodie next, and then Chris Bryant. We just have 8 legitimate infielders for 4 spots. That's a good problem to have going into October, particularly when a couple of those guys weren't performing as well. It's like, we know you might be better pieces at other times in your career, but right now you're not, and we got enough guys to cover this. Like, we're good.
And you forgot one that comes off the bench. Our pinch hitter extraordinaire, Tom Littell, because that's the only one, that one position. He can't play the outfield.
Oh, no, but I mean, he's just a pinch hitter, but he's not going into a starting lineup in that group. I mean, those are 8 guys who could legitimately start in that infield.
Yes, yeah.
Which, of course, is why there's guys like Chris Bryant and Ian Happ spending a lot of time in the outfield right now.
Ben Zobrist, too.
Well, Zobrist has always been a guy who spent a lot of time everywhere, but...
Okay. I think Jason's going to spend a lot of time on this one, so I'm going to...
So this is going to be the last one, then, because we're already going pretty deep into this. I don't know how...
Well, I got 3. 2 should be real quick, and then I got the one I think...
Let's do the 2 real quick ones and save the long one for the last one, make it our departing shot.
Jordan Spieth misses 6-inch putt in triple bogeys in a tournament.
Did he let me putt for him? Is that what happened? I mean, the only way you miss a 6-inch putt is if you just weren't paying attention. Actually, the blade touches the ball, and it counts as a stroke. Because golf has all kinds of weird rules like that. That's whatever. Yeah, you're right. That'll be short. It's funny, but it's just one of those weird. I'm sure it was a weird, quirky rule of golf, or he just really overtook it for granted and left his blade wide open and knocked it off the other edge.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but when I seen triple bogey for, he 3-putted it, so I'm not sure.
Missed a 6-inch putt. Yeah, that was great.
Kobe says LA fans will eventually love LeBron.
I mean, he's right. LA fans have no loyalty ever. They're not going to start now. They're 1/2 of a notch, maybe even 1/8 of a notch ahead of Miami fans. And no loyalty. As soon as they're good, they're going to be just fine with LeBron. It's no biggie. Let's not act. I mean, again, this is a team that took to Kobe after they were mad that he chased Shaq off, but we're still happy with him when they won 2 more championships. Took to Shaq even though he was an Orlando guy. You know, they've always been malleable. As long as you win, they don't care.
Okay. I'm going to change the headline a little bit to see if you can guess where I'm going with this. 30 years after unstoppable 1988 season, Barry Sanders' line 2,850 yards and 44 touchdowns in the 1988 college football season.
Are you trying to talk about him getting robbed of the Heisman? Is that what you're trying to talk about?
No, they were celebrating his...
Oh, he won. That's right. 87 was when Tim Brown won. I keep forgetting that he did win.
That's a record that will never...
What, 44 rushing touchdowns?
I think 44 touchdowns, yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
You can take a quarterback out because you know the passing ones, but a running back, a wide receiver, 44 touchdowns.
I mean, it was an impressive season. I mean, Barry Sanders was an impressive running back. It's unfortunate that he got stuck in a garbage situation with Wayne Fontenot up in Detroit and never got to enjoy him as much as he should have in the NFL. I mean, he was literally 1 season away from breaking the rushing record of Walter Payton, which is why, again, Walter Payton was as complete and great running back as there was. Barry Sanders was as electric as there ever was. Emmitt Smith may have the rushing record, but he's not in the same breath as those two guys, or a handful of others you can name.
Emmitt Smith got it for longevity.
Well, that, and he played behind a great line in Dallas.
A great fullback.
Great tight end. I mean, he was in a great situation. It's okay. He achieved the record. He holds the record. He'll probably own it forever because running backs just don't play that long anymore. Mm-hmm. And they just don't get those numbers of touches anymore. They get more touches in the passing game for the elite ones than they do in the running game some games. So, but yeah, Barry Sanders was impressive. It was an amazing season. It's a reason, nothing new. So I think that's a good place to call it. I think that was a good episode. I hope everybody enjoyed some ranting, some raving, some thoughtful analysis, some jovial conversation along the way. A little sidetracked here and there. It's going to be what happens. And mine's a scatter field of squirrels running around inside there. I'm never going to be able to hold it together, but I always find my way back. So thanks again for tuning in to the Don't Worry Nobody's Listening podcast. As always, like our Facebook page. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and YouTube at JASONBANICKI. The podcast is on iTunes, Google Play Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Satchel, Castbox, Partridge in a Pear Tree. I'm on TuneIn Radio or iHeartRadio, one of those two. I can't keep track of all the things it's on. It pops up somewhere new every week, but check it out, share it with your friends, and we will talk to you guys again soon.
Bye.
Peace.
'Cause I cannot change, I will not evolve. I am an artifact of the last of my kind. You will encounter me in the pages of a textbook. Too scared to move ahead, so stubborn I was left behind. My tiny brain buried in my thick skull. I'm the last of my kind.
That's all. We got one goddamn hit.
You can't say goddamn on the air.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.